She called herself the super mayor, but behind the title, a storm was brewing, one made of luxury perks, taxpayer-funded travel, and FBI agents knocking on township doors. Tiffany Henyard's political empire is crumbling, and the true cost of her reign is now coming into full view. Once celebrated as a trailblazing leader of Dalton, Illinois, Henyard now faces deepening public distrust, mounting controversy, and a federal investigation that threatens to dismantle her carefully cultivated image. Cameras once followed her every move, from food giveaways to first-class flights, but few imagined a woman known for her charisma and camera-ready confidence would fall under such scrutiny. Now, the curtain is closing, and the damage left behind is staggering. It was Easter weekend. Dozens of cars lined up for blocks outside a township food giveaway, one of many branded events Henyard had made her signature. To the casual observer, it looked like public service in action. A mayor handing out groceries, showing up for her community. But behind the waving hands and photo ops, a calculated strategy was unfolding. Tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars were funneled into these feel-good displays, custom tents, professional video crews, branded signage, all designed to spotlight Henyard just in time for election season. Critics labeled it performance politics, a glossy theater charity where public funds underwrote personal promotion. And for some, that performance delivered. "I didn't vote," one resident admitted while waiting in line, "but I'm going to get some money today." It was a revealing moment, not just about perceptions of Henyard, but about how transactional local politics had become under her watch. Governance blurred into spectacle. Public funds became tools of personal favor, and for a time it worked. But that illusion began to collapse under scrutiny. Public records revealed a stunning figure. $347,000. Henyard's annual compensation across her two public roles as mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township. That salary outpaced nearly every other public official in Illinois, including the mayor of Chicago. The township alone paid her more than $282,000 a year, plus a $4 $900 monthly expense allowance and a $100 vehicle stipend. And that wasn't all. Dalton taxpayers also funded 2 SUVs used by police to chauffeur her around, along with a personal security detail and luxury travel. Meanwhile, many residents were struggling to cover basic expenses. The backlash was swift. The community that once rallied behind Henyard began to ask a difficult question. How did a public servant become a political celebrity? And more urgently, who was paying the price? As federal investigators zeroed in and whistleblowers began to speak out, the myth of the super mayor began to unravel. What started as a campaign built on bold leadership and community uplift now appeared riddled with excess, self-interest, and systemic misuse of public funds. Perhaps the most damning chapter came after Henyard lost her re-election bid as township supervisor. Instead of a graceful exit, she vanished. She stopped attending board meetings, skipped votes on major township decisions, and effectively abandoned the office, while continuing to collect her full taxpayer-funded salary. There was no explanation, no public statement, just silence. Bills kept piling up, services deteriorated, and public frustration gave way to outrage. Critics labeled her absentee leadership as selfish. Former township staff went further. "She put on a show," said one whistleblower who had served the township for over 2 decades. "Every 2 weeks, it was like a circus. Loud, flashy, but no substance. What once looked like strength now feels like betrayal." The woman who vowed to clean up local government is accused of exploiting it for personal gain. Her rise was meteoric, but her fall has been even more spectacular and more painful for the residents left to deal with the consequences. Tiffany Henyard's reign as the so-called supermayor may have begun with applause, but as federal agents knock and headlines mount, it's clear the show is over. And in its wake lies a town asking how it was all allowed to happen, and who will clean up the mess: power, perks, and the price of betrayal. The final unraveling of Tiffany Henyard, ***. She called herself the super mayor. But behind the photo ops and self-styled slogans, a darker reality simmered, one of extravagant perks, unchecked spending, and federal agents quietly circling. What once looked like visionary leadership has now curdled into scandal. Tiffany Henyard's political empire, built on bold promises and polished optics, is in free fall, and the full cost of her reign is only now coming to light. The internal dysfunction that once simmered behind closed doors has spilled into public view, revealing a local government more obsessed with image than with meaningful service. And it didn't stop with inflated salaries or missed meetings. Investigative reports have uncovered over $100,000 in taxpayer-funded travel expenses, First-class flights, high-end hotels, upscale meals, luxury masquerading as official business. Henyard and her entourage stayed at the Four Seasons. They dined in style. They flew in premium cabins, all on the public dime, while many Dalton residents struggled to pay rent, access basic services, or find stable work. What Henyard called leadership, many now call exploitation. When pressed for answers, Henyard deflected. "I did not handle anything related to the credit cards," she told reporters, an attempt to distance herself from the financial controversy. But when asked directly whether she had been in Las Vegas, one of the cities under investigation, she stumbled. "Of course I do," she started, then trailed off, dodging the question entirely. The contradictions piled up. Transparency vanished. But the invoices kept coming, and the public kept paying. Under her leadership, Thornton Township adopted some of the most excessive travel reimbursement policies in the state. $600 per day for out-of-state travel, $400 per day for in-state trips, in addition to all airfare, hotels, and food. The figures raised immediate red flags. Who approved these payouts? What was the justification? And most importantly, where was the oversight? While surrounding townships operated under modest, transparent budgets, Thornton under Henyard stood out as bloated, opaque, and self-serving. When her successor was asked whether he supported those supersized compensation packages, his answer was evasive. What you make is based on what you deliver. But for Dalton and Thornton residents, the equation felt clear. Services were declining while spending skyrocketed. The backlash reached beyond community outrage. It reached the federal government. Sources confirmed that FBI agents had visited the homes of multiple Henyard allies, quietly seeking cooperation, documents, and testimony. Doors were knocked, questions asked, subpoenas rumored. While the full scope of the investigation remains sealed, one thing is certain. Federal authorities are taking the allegations seriously. Now, the central question is no longer just about ethical lapses. It's about legality. How deep does a misconduct go? Who else was involved? Were taxpayer dollars misused? Deliberately, systematically, and with impunity as investigators dig deeper, Dalton finds itself suspended in political limbo. A town that once embraced Henyard's promise of reform is now reckoning with a painful reality. It may have empowered something far more dangerous. And in the aftermath, the trust broken may prove even harder to repair than the finances drained since losing her re-election bid as township supervisor. Henyard has all but disappeared. She's refused to attend board meetings, skipped votes, and effectively abandoned her post. ***, all while continuing to collect her full salary, vehicle stipend, and monthly expense allowance. The silence has enraged residents and stunned officials alike. For someone who once flooded Facebook with messages about transparency and doing the work, her absence is deafening. Why not offer an explanation? Why vanish while still cashing in? To her critics, the answer is obvious. She was never invested in public service. She was invested in control, optics, and power. Others suggest that the growing heat of multiple investigations made her public appearances too risky, that as subpoenas loomed and the FBI closed in, the supermayor chose to retreat from the very public she claimed to champion. And yet, despite the mounting scandals, Henyard still has her defenders. "I think she's done a lot for the community," one resident told a reporter. "Security, food drives, people don't talk about that." It's true. Under Henyard's leadership, Thornton Township held numerous community events, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Free groceries, holiday giveaways, pop-up resource fairs. These visible acts of aid won her praise, and many believe helped win her votes. But to others, these gestures were little more than political theater. Events timed for maximum publicity, funded by questionable budget decisions, and always tightly controlled for optics. "She didn't do anything unless it made her look good," said one township employee. Everything was about the cameras. What should have been service became spectacle. And now, that spectacle is crumbling. The community is sharply divided. Some believe Henyard is being unfairly targeted, that her bold leadership threatened entrenched interests and ruffled the wrong feathers. But others see a clear and troubling pattern. A textbook case of how unchecked power, weak oversight, and blurred ethical boundaries can hollow out public institutions from the inside. The financial costs are measurable. Hundreds of thousands spent on salaries, travel, luxury perks. But the deeper wound is one of trust lost. Tiffany Henyard once styled herself as a fearless reformer. She said she'd fight for the people. She promised change. Today, that image lies in ruins. Her legacy is now overshadowed by scandal, public backlash, and a growing federal investigation. The cost of her reign wasn't just in dollars. It was in the damage done to democracy, the erosion of civic confidence, and the institutional wreckage left behind. One of the new township supervisor's first acts will be slashing the salary for the role from over $280,000 to just $50,000. It's not just a fiscal correction. It's a statement. This office belongs to people, not to those who treat it like a personal kingdom. It's an attempt to rebuild faith, restore accountability, and bring a sense of normalcy back to a township left reeling. The story of Tiffany Henyard isn't just a local scandal. It's a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that power without accountability invites corruption, that image without integrity is hollow, and that when elected leaders forget who they work for, the public will eventually demand answers. As the FBI continues its investigation and Dalton begins a long road to recovery, one thing is certain. The final chapter has yet to be written. And this time, the nation is watching.